In honor of Women's History Month, we have some amazing women in the AL West, and we're going to do a roundtable to preview what's to come in the division for the 2025 season. I am Jenny Kavnar, play-by-play for the Athletics. Happy to be joined by my good friends, Emily Jones, reporter for Ranger Sports Network, Julia Morales, the reporter and host for Space City Home Network, and Angie Mentink, who is the color analyst for the Seattle Mariners. Ladies, welcome in, and let's get going on what to expect with the AL West. Emily, I'm going to begin with you. Bruce Bochy has a big task at hand because already a lot of injuries to that starting rotation, and one big name coming back in Jacob deGrom. What's the plans for him this season in terms of any innings restrictions and how he's going to be used?
I think it's going to be a kind of a play it by ear type of situation with Jacob. I know they want to tread lightly with him, especially in the beginning of the season, which is why they're bumping him to the back of the rotation to give him those extra days off over the first month of the season or so. You know, Jacob has talked about really kind of tweaking the way he pitches instead of trying to, blow fastballs by every batter he faces, of how to take a little bit off of it. Maybe that will extend, his lifespan as far as a pitcher is concerned. And he realizes that he doesn't have to do that. He knows how to pitch. And I think we'll see some, minor adjustments in the way that he mixes up his repertoire and kind of how he goes about his business on the mound, just because, two Tommy Johns is enough for anyone. And I think he's been so eager to get back out there and contribute consistently to this team. So I think they're definitely going to tread lightly with him, but they'll trust him to, tell them how he's feeling, how he's doing, if he needs to pull back a little bit or if he's ready to go full bore.
I think we all know that a healthy Jacob deGrom is going to be a threat to any team in the American League West. Moving on to the Astros, big news out of camp that Jose Altuve is officially moving to left field. Julia, give us the preview of what to expect with Altuve in the outfield.
Yeah, I've covered this team a long time. This one's definitely new to cover Jose Altuve out in left field, and Joe Espada coming out and saying he is our primary left fielder. So this is happening. It's something he committed to over the offseason, and so far in spring training, I'm hearing, he's adjusting well. I got to watch it early on, and he was having a blast out there. But now that we're deeper in, and now that real games are close, I'm hearing great things about the work ethic and what he's working on. Now, he's got the speed to run down balls in every direction. Things he's working on, of course, are just those line drives, especially from left-handed hitters, getting ready for those. Also, different technique for him on just catching ground balls. So those are the main focus for him in some of this early work. He did drop some fly balls here in the last couple of days, runners on third in those situations, and said he was rushing it. So definitely work to be done. But again, something he really committed to, dedicated himself to. We'll see him at second base every so often, especially if Joe wants to give Yainer Diaz a DH day, move Yordan Alvarez out to left field. That was the point behind all this, was to give the Astros some options in the way they use their guys. But for 12 of the last 13 years, we've seen Jose Altuve at second base on opening day, and that will not be the case here in 2025.
Yeah, it's going to be a little strange come opening day to see Jose Altuve out in left field, but we know nothing is probably going to change with Altuve's offense and what he brings to that Astros lineup. Moving on to the Mariners, Angie, of course, the big change is at the helm. We saw it last year, but now entering his first full season as the manager. What has Dan Wilson's message been to the team heading into 2025?
I think the message is that, games and winning games in April and May are just as important as winning games in August and September, because the Mariners have made a really bad habit of missing the playoffs the last couple of years by a game. And so they're doing a lot of things to make sure that they're not easing out of the gates. No, that they're ready to go on opening night. Something that Edgar Martinez used to do was take extra at-bats in the backfields to make sure that he was really locked in and ready to go, that his timing was good. We're seeing a lot of other players like Julio Rodriguez start to do that as well. And I really kind of wondered, what Dan Wilson, the skipper, was going to be like, because Dan Wilson, what a jerk, said no one ever. He is the nicest guy in the entire world. So you kind of wondered, does he have enough fire to get this team going? And already you see an intensity. Yes, they are having fun, but there is an intensity that's very clear with Dan Wilson as the skipper.
Well, probably one of the biggest changes in the AL West is going to be where you visit the Athletics. Their home this year will be in West Sacramento at Sutter Health Park. They'll be playing in a minor league park the next 3 years before their home in Vegas is done for the 2028 season. Another big change you're going to see is free agent signings. The Athletics went out and spent money on Luis Severino to get a frontline starter. They went ahead and committed to Brent Rooker as a franchise player in an extension, and also Lawrence Butler on a 7-year extension. The commitment signifies so much. It signifies a new era of this franchise, a franchise that that began back in 1901 in Philadelphia, moved to Kansas City, on to Oakland. That chapter is officially done. And as they move forward, it's a commitment to players they want to build around as they eventually head towards Las Vegas. And so to see the excitement around a player like Luis Severino, what he's meant in camp, his presence, the way he carries himself, and then to be named the opening day starter, pretty cool to be a tone setter for what's to come for the green and gold. All right, let's get back to what the Rangers are doing in the field. Emily, we saw a season from Wyatt Langford that had high expectations. What are the expectations for season 2?
Yeah, I think he really started rounding into form the last 2 months of the season, and it took him a little while, which is to be expected for a rookie. And I think what we saw in the last couple months of the season is what everyone expected from the beginning. And I think those expectations might have played into things as far as the early season struggles are concerned. But he's got the power. He's got the speed. He's such a fun watch. Every at bat is so entertaining. He's got really great strike zone recognition, even though he tends to get hosed every once in a while, or actually more than every once in a while. His demeanor is fantastic. And so they really are expecting big things out of him, and they need someone in that lineup to kind of take some pressure off. So there's not so much, on, Adolis Garcia, Corey Seager, to where you can kind of stretch the lineup and see that production and get that protection 1 through 9.
Maybe the ABS system will do him some good when it finally comes to Major League Baseball. Moving back to the Astros, Julia, obviously the absence of Kyle Tucker will also be a big change for Houston this year going in after the trade. Cam Smith coming back in that trade. What's the reality of him potentially making an opening day roster? And if it's not going to be for opening day, when can we expect to see him?
That's a great question, Jenny. Yeah, it's real. So get your notes going on a young kid. If he's not there on opening day, it won't be long after. I mean, this kid coming in a big trade, like you said, Kyle Tucker, a big loss for the Astros, but quickly in spring training, Cam has become it's more of a hot topic in Houston, I should say, before I say household name, but they will know his name with just what the potential is for this kid. 22 years old, hasn't played above AA, but he came into camp very comfortable in his own skin. The presence was there, and then the bat showed up very quickly, and it's continued. The Astros keep running him out there, and they're so serious about giving him a shot that they're putting him in the outfield to get reps out there. So a third baseman coming up, they think he's athletic enough to maybe try right field, so that's exactly what they've done, get him out there, because he is that impressive, and he is someone they are definitely have in the mix so far, down to the wire here on that opening day roster. Like I said, if it's not opening day, it probably won't be long, but with him getting those reps in the outfield, I mean, that is one of the huge questions for the Astros in 2025 with that loss of Kyle Tucker, and they need offense from some of these guys. So Jose Altuve out there, it could be Cam Smith out there at times too. They are giving themselves some options.
Oh, shocking. The Astros have a young, versatile player coming up. Can't wait to see how that one plays out. Also in shocking news, the Mariners have a ridiculous rotation once again. I think, Angie, the big question all offseason and obviously going into 2025 is, will their offense be supportive enough to get them those wins? You mentioned Edgar Martinez earlier. He's a name that highlights the coaching staff that will be responsible for that. What are your expectations going into this new era?
Well, that's the thing. Their staff is so good, and because that pitching staff is so good, they're always going to be in games. But you saw an immediate impact at the end of last year with Edgar Martinez coming in and really that up-the-middle approach, really thinking about taking that fastball up the middle into opposite field and then being in a position to be able to hit the off-speed to the pull side. And that's kind of his message is, yes, you got a couple cracks at this, trying to get off your ace swing, but then once you get to 2 strikes, he really wants to see you grind. Kevin Seitzer brought in as well. Those two are working hand in hand. But if you look at last year, the Mariners were really bad at playing baseball when it comes to get him on, get him over, get him in. They were dead last in productive outs. Then you look at when Dan and when Edgar took over, and then from that point in August through the rest of the season, they were middle of the pack. So you saw an immediate impact with that difference in approach and that mindset, and that has just continued. And I think this is really going to be helpful for this offense. Give yourself a little bit of room for error. You don't have to be perfect with the swing. And with that approach and hitting, foul line to foul line, I think we're starting to see that a little bit more with this offense.
Awesome stuff, ladies. I can't wait to see you all in person this year. Emily, Julia, Angie, thank you so much. And I think the AL West is going to be a division you want to keep your eye on in 2025.
Theme for the Mets is, how are some returning players going to respond to roles changes? In the case of guys like Clay Holmes, it's been real good. Here's something from Anthony DeComo on Brett Baty. Just hit his 4th spring homer. We showed it to you. A tremendous camp out of the gate. Should start most days against right-handed starters at second base. Give me your best thought on how this is going to go for the Mets.
I think this is the first time they've had a lot of high expectations. He's had a great spring. The 4 home runs. Look at that average, 353, knocked in 11 runs. They've had a lot of hopes for this guy. He's going to get an opportunity. I don't want to say it's sink or swim time, but this is the Mets team that wants to build off the postseason last year. You look at that lineup, boy, the front five in that lineup, Vientos really burst on the scene. Had a terrific postseason last year. Jesse Winker, they brought him back. Starlin Marte, he's kind of going to be that interchangeable part. Use him as some as DH. Jose Siri, patrolling center field, so we'll see how that goes.
What about the rotation? Some similar questions as to the ones across town for the Yankees due to injuries. Minaya, Montes. So it leaves you with this group. Kodai Senga coming off a very abbreviated 2024. Griffin Canning bought low by the Angels. There's a lot of upside there with him. And Clay Holmes gets the ball on opening day.
Yeah, to me, you look at this, you go back to last August, and Clay Holmes was struggling mightily in that bullpen for the Yankees. Luke Weaver ended up salvaging their season. I'm not sure the Mets even thought that he would take to this starting thing like he did. He had a really good grapefruit league, added a changeup to the mix, and I think, Matt, getting out of that pressure cooker, that phone ringing in the 8th or 9th inning is going to do him some good. He's settled in. He's gone deep into some games. Yep. Opening day start, I don't even think if you had a crystal ball and you were the biggest of Clay Holmes fans that you would have said, okay, next year he will be the opening day starter for the Mets. Couldn't have seen that coming.
He gets that opening day start against Framber Valdez and the Houston Astros. And we know about the Mets' opening day success, whether they open a season at home or on the road. The .651 winning percentage, the best among any major league team. I give Mookie a lot of credit for the transparency there. My body's eating itself is an interesting way to put it. It's like a scene out of Alien.
Yeah, and for a guy that's not a really big frame guy to begin with, for him to lose 20 pounds, that's significant. Yeah. Plays a premier position, too. Plays some right field, a little bit of shortstop. They can move him all over the place. One of the premier players. They're so deep, though. Think about this. They've already played 2 games in Tokyo without Betts, without Freeman. And what are they? They're undefeated already.
It is worth restating, though, how important he is to everything they do because of his versatility and his production. It's fueled a lot of speculation as to his availability for opening day when the Dodgers have a date with Tarek Skubal and the Tigers.
Yeah, that's going to be some kind of marquee matchup, right? You've got Blake Snell, former Cy Young Award winner, against the reigning Cy Young Award winner on the AL and Tarek Skubal. One of the better matchups you'll find.
We'll have a little bit more on that scheduled opening day matchup later. And while Mookie tries to get things back in order, while Shohei Ohtani gets the pitching stuff back in order for some point this season, guys like Freddie Freeman and the rest of the Dodgers just continue to hit. Is it ridiculous to suggest this team could win 107-ish games this year?
You know what? We were on the air last week, and I predicted somewhere around 96, 97, and I know that's probably on the low end. We're just taking for granted. It's hard to win 95 games in the big leagues. It really is. You go back to last year, we looked at their starting rotation. We thought, they have so many guys. Where are they going to fit all these guys in? And yet, at the trading deadline, they were the most active team. They were trying to get in on everybody. They acquired Jack Flaherty. So as quickly as you think you have an abundance of players, it can happen to you fast, and they're finding that out right now with Mookie Betts.